Afternoon, discombobulated here. I don't know what it's like where you're at, but it's been so hot here in Utah. Today was 99, and it just makes it miserable to be working outside. And I've been doing this thing where every day I come home from work just like super tired, and it's super hot, and my truck doesn't have AC, and the highways, it's super hot, and the roads are hot. So when I get here, I just feel super tired and hot. And then I go in the camper and I get myself cleaned up. I make a little something to eat. And then I just been going to sleep. So I've been going to bed at like, say, 6:30. And then I'll wake up around 11:30, 11:15. Not sure what to do with myself. So then I'll watch some videos and, do some dishes, try to be a little bit productive till I get sleepy again, usually around 2. And then I sleep from like, say, 2 to 6. And I guess it's working. At least I'm sleeping. And I know I've been sleeping pretty deep because I've been dreaming a lot, having a lot of crazy dreams, and which I think is a good thing. I've been through a couple of crazy things. I was riding my motorcycle back from the tile job the other day. Well, let's say 3 weeks ago. And I was on the highway on I-15 in what they call the diamond lane, which is the leftmost lane, which is like the commuter lane. And the bike started cutting out like it was running out of gas. And I thought I was going to go for a minute, but then it was cutting out. And then I looked to see if it was clear. Luckily, I was able to get over, and it completely died. But I was able to, I just happened to be in a spot where there was an exit. And so I coasted off onto that exit. The exit happened to be downhill. So then I coasted downhill, and it just so happened that right around that corner was a gas station. So I coasted right into that gas station. And then it was super hot that day too. It was like, I think, say 103. And so I felt really lucky that I made it off of the highway. But then I was stuck in the gas station, and I was like, what's going on? So I looked around at the bike for a little bit, and it's hard to think clearly. And like when you're in that kind of a jam, But I thought, well, maybe it's, somehow not getting gas. I made sure it had gas in the tank. And then I thought, well, maybe it's not getting spark. And, but anyways, I messed around with it for a while. I happened to have a multimeter with me, and the battery looked really low. So I thought, well, this bike's famous for burning out rectifiers, regulator rectifiers. And I thought, oh man, I might have fried the rectifier, because it works, it's like a heat sink, so it dissipates heat into the frame, and on hot days it has a hard time dissipating heat. So I thought, well, I think out there on the freeway, when it's say 102, 103 out, that it's actually around 125, like on the freeway. I mean, it feels like you're riding in an oven because of that heat island effect with all that concrete, and so anyways, I had to take a couple buses. It was like 137 stops from South Salt Lake to Layton. And then luckily I had a motorcycle carrier that I could put on the hitch on my truck. Then I had to drive there, pick up the bike, get it back home. And then I just really started thinking about it. And then like the next morning, I'm probably boring everybody with this motorcycle story, I just realized. But I tried to start it, and it started up, and then it died again. But so then I started thinking it was all kind of different stuff, and I did all these different tests. And well, at first I had charged the battery, but it ended up that the fuel pump, I had put a new fuel pump on just because I felt like the old one was getting old. And the connector, the newer connector, didn't exactly work with the old one, and even though it firmly kind of pushed in, it didn't hook, and it had come loose. And so if I had just discovered that at the gas station, all I would have had to do is push those two pieces back together. Well, so anyway, I got the bike going again, and then I was gonna ride it up to the tile job again this weekend, and but first I had to run to the grocery store and get out on the freeway. So I was like, that'll be a good chance just to make sure everything's working okay. And so I got out on the freeway, made it just like a couple miles. I was doing like 80 probably, and all of a sudden it started bogging down really bad. And I was in that far left lane again, but I was able to get over it. Just happened to be the traffic was clear. And then, but I was a long ways from an exit. So I stopped and got off the bike, and I was like, what is going on? And I thought it was like having some of that same type of trouble, but I would try to go, and it was like the back wheel just didn't want to move. So I was looking at it. The only thing I could figure was I had just lubricated the chain and everything, was that somehow the back brake was frozen up. So I had luckily thrown a couple tools in a little bag and put it underneath the seat. I had been running with no tools till that last breakdown. Then I thought, I better start bringing a few things with me. And so then I reached down and I loosened up one of the bolts that holds the brake assembly on. And then after I did that, it would roll. So I was able to start it up and get it back home. And then I got it up on the stand, took a look, and the brake pads were just completely worn out. So I feel super stupid, but it doesn't seem like that long ago that I put brake pads on it, but I realized it had been a long time. And then, everything's just been kind of up in the air and topsy-turvy with my life. And then the bike had been broke down with one thing or another, the carburetor rebuild, the fork rebuild. And so, I just did not think to check on the brake pads. So now I need a new disc, brake pads, and some other stuff there. But what's amazing is that I've been lucky enough to make it home off the freeway each time. Well, not getting jammed up on the freeway and having to get a tow or something like that. And then I didn't have insurance on the bike, so when it was broke down on the freeway, it's like, oh my God, they're gonna come, the state trooper's gonna pull up and he's gonna ask me for my papers, and then find out I don't have insurance on the motorbike, which I'm planning to do. Now I'm thinking until I get the brakes fixed, I might put it off, but I probably should just get it right away. And then, so I had that additional stress of like, oh my God, if a cop pulls up on me now, I'm gonna be so busted, and then I'll be in big trouble. And so I have my day in court is the 17th for my misdemeanor for not having insurance in the truck. Oh, it's pretty stressful. I'm trying to figure out what to wear. I've been doing some reading about preparing for court, and they say to dress appropriately, which I don't even know what that's gonna be for me. And then it's the day after my birthday, which is kind of interesting. Anyways, it just seems like there's been like sort of one misadventure or like kind of trouble after another. And then financially, it just seems like there's always something else for the motorbike, and so tomorrow I'm going to take the truck up to the tile job, and I made sure I had a couple I have 2 fan belts on the engine. Well, one's fan belt, one's power steering. And I have a couple spares. I have a spare set of points and a condenser. Those are kind of troubles I ran into in the past with the truck. So, and then I got all my tools with me to, maybe help. But on a Sunday, it's harder because there's not as many places open to get help. But, well, whatever. So the new job is still going pretty good. I'm still in that pre-gruntled stage, or you could say I'm gruntled, because gruntled actually means happy. It's disgruntled. It's the opposite of that. Well, I don't even know if it means happy, but let's say content. But I have seen a couple times my boss. I've seen some, let's just call it a little bit of ugliness there a few times with my fellow employees, and then with me, he's gotten a little dicky a couple times. And so I was like, oh man, not really sure. I kind of just thought to myself, you know what? I think something's going to happen and I'm going to get fired or I'm going to quit. And I'm not, at first I was feeling like he liked me, but now I'm not so sure. And, there was one example, we were doing this exterior caulking, and I had started in one corner, came down, came across the bottom, came across the top, and made it halfway across the top piece, and the caulking gun ran out of caulking. So I stopped to get down off the ladder to get some caulking, and he was like, now look, Brian, if you don't put caulking on that spot, water's gonna get down there sure as shit. And he started just like reprimanding me. And I was like, well, I understand. I got the caulking gun ran out of caulking. And then he was like, oh, but like he's real like quick to jump on things instead of give you a minute or just figure like, well, surely he knows better than that or something. So that's one example. The other day I was on one of these trim boards. He was doing the cutting and he brought me a board that was short, and it was short by like a 1/4 inch. He brought me a left and a right. They were both short, but on the left one I just raised it up and split the difference. But then he came around when I was putting the right one on, and I knew it was sitting on the bottom trim, and I said, hey, I think we should probably raise it up. He was like, nail it. And so I just put a nail in it. And then later, when it was time to go, we were kind of back by the truck, and he was like, Brian, that window, that gap that's above that window, that is not acceptable. And I didn't really know how to respond. He said, he said I should have put some caulking in it. And I was like, well, I thought that somebody else was doing the caulking and, and the painting and stuff. And he was like, well, when you got a gap like that, you need to caulk it because we don't want the homeowner seeing it. And we probably should have cut that board. And then I said, well, I felt like we should cut a new one too, but I didn't want to tell you it was short, So there's kind of like this feeling where like I don't feel free to tell him when he's cut a board short, or I should have just said, hey man, you cut this board short. But they were kind of complicated cuts because we were making some channels in them too, and so it wasn't just a simple cut. He would have had to cut it to length and then cut this channel on the table saw and then finish it with the multi-tool. So I thought he would kind of flip out, he's kind of prone to flipping out. So I'm disappointed in that. I got another one of those contractors that's like that, which they're, I don't know why they're like that, or why I run across so many people that are like that, jumping to conclusions, trying to, instead of kind of planning things out and like he'll just dive into something and then things will get nailed wrong, things will get done wrong, then we got to take stuff off and go backwards, and it kind of stressing me out just talking about it, So now I'm already getting that feeling where like when he pulls up on the job, when I hear his truck, I'm like, oh shit, what's this gonna be about, So I get kind of scared feeling or like a fear, and then so usually when I know he's gonna come in right away, because that's usually like the worst part, I'll like go to the restroom or go get a drink of water. I'll like try to stay clear of him a little bit, And then a lot of times if I pipe up and say something, it just brings me a lot of trouble. And there's another example where we had to cut this big, they're called laminated vinyl beams or LVBs or LV somethings. Anyway, these big hunks of wood that they're load bearing to act as headers and beam supports and stuff. And one of my coworkers had set one up on the sawhorses for me to cut and told me to cut at 80 inches. But then he said, "Oh wait, we got to check some other stuff out." So we did, and then we went back to it, and he was like, "Yeah, okay, go ahead and cut that." And when I looked at it, I was like, "Man, this one seems awfully wide or tall, let's say." And then I was like, but I didn't want to cause any trouble, so I was like, well, this is the one they said to cut, so I cut that one. And then it turned out that it was too big. It was supposed to be a narrower one, and it was a kind of an expensive mistake, but it didn't get blamed on me because somebody else had set it out there and told me to cut it. And so there's already been some stuff, but I don't know, like, and then I heard that the guy who left before I was there, he quit because the boss was jumping on him and stuff. So I don't know. I've been trying not to take this stuff personally, but it's definitely taken the joy out of the job. Not constantly, but whenever he's around. The worst case scenario, if he's going to work with us. If he's gone and it's just the three of us, everything's cool, everything's smooth, you know. But when he comes around, that's when things get a little jerky, you know. And so, I don't know. I've been praying about it, especially like before I go to work, you know. And then I was doing a reading that said that, like, you know, when you're listening to something, to say a quick prayer, and then when you're speaking, to say like almost like a flash prayer, you know, before you speak. And so I've been trying to, I don't know, stay in the right headspace and be kind of careful with my words. And but I'm feeling more like I just need to be, that the less I say, the better. And that, you know, the less I get involved, the better. And so I'm trying to just be real laid back and try to keep my nose out of everything in a way, you know. And I don't know if that's the right thing to do. I don't know. Just talking about it now, I'm feeling kind of stressy about it, and it just made me think like, oh, you know what? What I should do is I should have a backup plan already. I should try to, I mean, I don't want to bail yet, but I kind of feel like something's going to happen, you know. I don't know. And then we're supposed to have a summer party at the boss's house, like a pool party or something, and I already don't want to go, you know. Yeah. So that's just something I gotta grapple with. And then it's stressing me out too when I get home. Like after he got after me the other day about that board that was too short, and, that I didn't cut too short. I gave him the right measurement. He cut it too short, and then he told me to nail it even when I wasn't ready to nail it. But I've been like ruminating about that stuff, you know, all the way home. And then at night, you know, and just like, oh God, it's making me nerved out, you know. But I feel like I want to just be strong, be tough. I mean, the pay's pretty good. Everything, you know, it seems like it's kind of going along, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just feeling a little lost there, I guess. Just realizing it, talking about it, you know. But so I just wanted to mention one other thing. Thinking about how when the cops got me and I was able to stay calm and deal with all that rigmarole, when my motorcycle broke down the other day on the highway, I didn't like feel like, I used to get this sense of panic that was like overwhelming. And then even today when I broke down, I was kind of able to keep my cool alongside the highway, and the cars were ripping by and the sun was beating down on me, and I just took my helmet off and kind of looked around with the bike for a little bit, kind of figured out, okay, it's the brake, probably. Luckily I had that tool, and then I was able to get myself back, and it was draining, but I really feel like that mushroom therapy had helped me a lot. Like, it's really given me a more like balanced feeling every day, or just a better feeling every day. And I had tried doing some, what I thought I was microdosing, and I had been doing lion's mane mushrooms in my coffee, and it had a scooper in there, and I thought, well, that scooper looks like probably that would be a microdose of my other mushrooms, right? And so I put a scoop of that. I used that lion's mane mushroom scooper in my other mushrooms that I had pulverized in the Ninja and made a powder out of. And I put a scoop of that in my coffee in the morning. And then I noticed later, like, my teeth were numb and I felt kind of strange. And I had to go into the grocery store, and I walked by the shampoo aisle, and it was like sparkling and stuff. And I was like, wow, man. That's kind of interesting. And then the next day I did the same thing, and I had like some kind of like spatial openness kind of feeling stuff going on that's hard to explain, and like kind of a strange energy feeling. And then the third day, it was kind of that same thing where I just felt like, it seems like it's a little more than a microdose, which is supposed to be imperceptible. And so then I looked at the container for the lion's mane mushrooms, and I realized that it was 1.5 grams. And so I was actually giving myself a low dose in the morning in my coffee instead of a microdose, which should be more like 0.5 grams. And so then I learned that you're supposed to, and then I thought it was a daily thing because I hadn't really researched it. But I learned that there's some protocols, and one protocol is you microdose on in one day, and then you take a couple days off. On the second day, you return to baseline, and then on the third day, you, let's say, I won't even say clear it out, but if you do it every day, you'll have a tolerance to it. I think it has something to do with your serotonin receptors or something. So you have to take a couple days off even between the microdoses. And then if you do a microdose and you want to go, let's say, and you want to take a trip and go on a journey, you have to wait a little while. You have to wait, I think they say 7 days. Well, so after that, I had gotten a different batch of these really, really strange looking ones. And with lots of blue on them, and they were super white. And they just looked like something special, and I was kind of afraid of them, like right away. Even when I held them in my hand, I was like, oh my God, these are something. I just kind of felt almost like a strange energy with them, and so I was like scared of them. And then last weekend I was like, I think I'm gonna try, and then I was gonna do 5 grams, but then I was like, man, maybe since you haven't done these, maybe you should back it off to 3. And then I was like, well, what about 4? So I just went for 4. This time I combined it because I heard about this protocol called the Stamets protocol, where you combine it with lion's mane mushroom and vitamin B3, which I think is niacin. And so I had a liquid dropper of that. So I did that combination. And boy, oh boy, I really went for a journey that was a lot more than I was expecting and I was ready for. And I feel like I lived like 1,000 years in a couple hours. like I got some like download from the universe that had to do with all this grief about all the bad things that are happening in the world, like that earthquake in Venezuela and the people that are starving and are having a hard time in Cuba, and crazy cartel violence in Mexico, like all this like grief to do with what a mess we are as a humanity and what a mess the world is, and then there was all this, like I touched on all these relationships again, and I felt that remorse and regret, for some women that I cheated on, and that I just felt like, I felt sorry about it before, but I didn't feel sorry like this, and like I could really feel all the pain that I had given other people, and my brother, I thought about some stuff with my brother and realized how much I loved him, and it's like I relived my life, like my life flashed before me like a lot type of deal, and then I came to and thought that maybe it was over, but I was still having a lot of visual effects and everything, and then, which is kind of what I wanted. The whole thing was what I wanted. But then I started to worry that I may not come out of it. Like my mind might be broken. I might have broke my mind, and that I might be stuck like this. And I couldn't even get up to get myself any water. I couldn't function. And I was worried about, am I going to make it to work tomorrow? Like, is this ever going to wear off? And so I got so worried that I had to call a friend who's kind of guided me a little bit in the past. And, he was reassuring and told me that, you're going to be okay, bro. You'll come back. And so I scared myself, though. I went out to that edge, and I was so glad to get back. And I'm just thinking about, next time, but I can't wait to go back again. But I gotta relax and enjoy that coming back part, and it's hard to, like, a sort of a crash landing type thing, or like getting real worried that you might not return to your normal thinking, or like, it's hard to explain, but it's super frightening. It's extremely frightening. And then even the next day, I felt like kind of hungover, like my brain had been scraped out, and I felt, changed, but I couldn't tell how. And then I couldn't wait to get back home and go to bed. But then when I laid down, if I closed my eyes, I would see like sparklers and like bright lights and stuff. And I was having, like, my brain was like reorganizing, like there'd been new neural pathways connecting or something. And I don't know. I still am trying to just integrate what happened, where I went, what I thought, I probably should write this stuff down in a journal. But but anyways, I feel like that has been helping me. It's like that, well, I won't call it a magic bullet, but there's something about it that's changing my thinking, changing the way I feel, for a better way, for the better, But, wow, I can't believe I talked for 30 minutes today. It's funny. They say that your YouTube videos should be short and sweet. And then I always kind of think, it's kind of like before I ride the motorcycle fast on the freeway. I always think, today when I get on the freeway, I'm just going to do the speed limit. I'm going to stay over in the slow lane. But then I always end up over in the fast lane and passing everybody and stuff. But almost every time I do a video, I just keep talking and talking and talking. But, well, thanks for listening to me talk it out. I feel like just talking here about my new job it's helpful. I'm not sure how. If anybody has any ideas on what I should wear to court, I would like to hear that. It's on the 17th at 9:30 in the morning. I hate wearing a tie, and it kind of doesn't make sense that I should wear a tie and a shirt and slacks, and I don't even have any slacks, so my best pair of pants is really just a clean pair of jeans that I haven't worked in and gotten all stained up, and maybe like a Wrangler shirt or something, but I don't know. I'm a little worried about that, but anyways, thanks for listening to me.